in a sense, businesses run by humans. So I want to spend today now looking at this issue of stakeholders. And I'm going to spend the rest of the course, spending a week each on the various stakeholders, beginning tonight with those stakeholders that are investors. So business has stakeholders. I'm going to get into the stakeholder model of corporate social responsibility in a second. But business should be seen really as having a relationship to several of its stakeholders. Who are these stakeholders? These people that the behavior of the business affects them directly. Who are these people where the behavior of the business affects them directly? Well, one set of stakeholders is the investors. You can use the word owners if you prefer. I really think that's a little bit of a misunderstanding, however. They are owners in a technical sense, but they are limited liability owners. I'll talk a little bit about that later, which really was an idea that was created in order to create investors. So these are investors in the business. There are employees. I'll talk about them next week. There are customers. I'll talk about them. There is the environment of business, and especially the natural environment. And here I'm going to talk about both the international environment, the global environment, and the natural environment. So we'll take them up one at a time, and then that'll leave us still a little bit of time to wrap the course up and summarize things. So, yes, George.
Wouldn't the modern be more community?
Yes, definitely. So we'll get into all that too. Yes, that is correct. But not just the community that the business operates within, but the broader community too. But that's very fair. That's very fair. Yeah.
I've never seen it split up this way. I've usually seen people file the environment factor under customers or under broader.
I'm okay with that.
Is it really that different? Is the question I'm asking?
The customers in the environment?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, the word environment could be a umbrella for everything, in a way. I think customers are worth a special look because the behavior of the business really affects those customers. The kind of products we consume, the kind of communication that takes place, advertising, the kind of sales tactics that are used. They all just have a direct impact on the behavior, on the life of the customers. So, I'm okay putting them under the umbrella of environment, but I do want to spend a week talking about them, wherever we put them. Okay. Good.
What do you mean with international and natural?
Well, what I want to do now is I want to look at what happens when businesses operate across national boundaries. When you are a multinational business, you are going to operate in cultures and countries where the laws are different, where the values are different, where the cultures are different. And then the question arises, should that business act as if they are, in a sense, according to the laws and the values of the country they're in, or the country where they come from?
In
The host country versus the home country. It's a very good question that has to be asked. We'll look at some cases where, what what is oftentimes in this country considered a bribe is in no way considered a bribe in some countries. It's considered a gift, and it's considered an ethical thing to do, so that you can establish a trusting relationship with others. So, especially in Asian countries, this is a notion that is very ethical, that, how could I possibly do business with someone who is independent of me, who's a stranger to me, who in a sense only cares about himself and doesn't care about me. I only want to do businesses with people that I have a relationship with. And those gifts cement that relationship. We, of course, call them bribes. So, yes, George?
I was wondering, like say some businesses go to across country in a not so wealthy country, and they don't worry about the safety as much as we do.
Correct. They can't afford it, they can't afford to worry about it.
Okay.
In this country, of course, it was like that not that long ago. We had child labor, we didn't have safety regulations. We weren't wealthy enough to have the luxury of safety. We were trying to eat, trying to survive. And so, the idea of spending money to make a workplace safe, or spending money, in a sense, depriving the family of the resources that a child could bring in, didn't make any sense, because we were, desperate to survive. Now we're wealthy, and we can afford those luxuries like safety. But other countries are not as wealthy. And so we're going to have to look at that question when we talk about this. Yeah. These are all good questions. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to talk about employees. We'll talk about whistleblowing and the responsibilities of employees. We'll talk about right to work. We'll talk about affirmative action. We'll talk about women's issues. We'll talk about all those things that business affects in its relationship with its employees. When we talk about customers, we'll talk about things like product safety. Yes, we'll talk about people who spill coffee on themselves, sue for millions and all that sort of thing. What is that all about? We'll talk about advertising and sales taxes. We'll talk about all those things. But today I want to talk about investors. And in particular, I want to talk about this issue of corporate governance and CEO compensation. These are kind of hot topics to talk about. Questions arise all the time. Are these CEOs getting paid too much? The right amount? I want to kick it around tonight. And especially I want to look at the corporate governance model. And if we have time, I want to use this as a segue to talk about Enron, because it's hard to have a business ethics course and not talk about Enron, for God's sakes. I mean, they kind of kicked this, they kind of jump-started this thing, so let's at least pay them their homage. We begin with a case study. The case study of Dick Grasso. Anybody familiar with this case? I happened to see his home, one of his homes in Florida. Don't ask me how I got there. I didn't go inside, but I was outside. And, it's multi-million-dollar mansions. Now, Dick Grasso was the CEO of the New York Stock Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange, as you know, provides oversight to companies that are going to have their shares freely traded. So as CEO of the New York Stock Exchange, Dick Grasso's in charge of the operations there, and by all accounts is doing a good job. He especially gets high points for getting the exchange working within a week of the attacks of 9/11.